It's strange. Despite the fact that we've been in a massive heat wave, the trees are still wearing scarves. Now, you know what? I'm not dealing with this silliness today. Where we're going, the trees don't need scarves. So today I'm back in Nova Banja, and I'm here to talk about water, specifically water in Slovakia. Slovakia has some of the largest freshwater reserves in Europe. Now, you've already seen the rivers, but you'd assume that statement means that they have a lot of lakes as well. But they don't. Most of Slovakia's water is trapped in underground aquifers. When it comes to lakes, Slovakia has some, but not as much as you'd expect for having so much fresh water. That is, they don't have a lot of natural lakes. So today we'll be talking about Tajch. That comes from the German word Teich, which means pond. At least I think it does. My German is really terrible. The reasons for making a Teich started over 200 years ago with a man named Josef Karol Hell. Yes, that is his real name. He was Slovak, or Hungarian, depending on who you ask. And I would argue that it doesn't actually matter because, number one, he's dead, and number two, the concept of a modern nation state would be very foreign to him. Hell was an engineer, and he developed what's called a water pillar, which is kind of basically a water pump. As I mentioned before, Slovakia used to have vast gold and silver reserves. That's all mined away now, but at the time that Hell was alive, mining was a very important industry. The problem, as I've already mentioned, is that Slovakia has a lot of groundwater, which means that once you dig to a certain depth, your mine's just going to fill up with water. So in order to deal with the excess water, Hell decided to use water. What Hell did was design a water-powered system designed for pumping water out of the mine shafts so that they could get that sweet, sweet gold and silver. Now, one of the things about powering this system is that you need a large water reservoir, and Slovakia doesn't have a lot of lakes, so they just made some. By damming small streams and rivers, they built up large reservoirs that could be used to power these machines when needed. I don't know which way I'm supposed to go now. As a result, small streams and rivers were dammed up to make these Tajch, or Tajchi. I'd like to point out that in coming this way, I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes. I hope you appreciate my struggles. I'm also covered in spiders, apparently. One other particularly interesting, and that brings us here. This is the Tajch of Nova Banja. This reservoir was built to fuel the technology designed by Hell 200 years ago. Since that time, mining has changed a lot. With modern mining equipment and electricity, we don't really need Hell's system anymore. Also, the gold and silver in Slovakia has kind of disappeared at this point. That doesn't mean that Hell's technology is completely obsolete. It's still used to extract oil. Since the Tajchi of Slovakia are no longer needed for the mines, most people now just use them as recreation areas, or some of them are used as reservoirs. The one here in Nova Banja is not part of any sort of larger system. There's some very wondrous engineering marvels in the Štavnická Mountains where there are several Tajchi linked together, but that's the subject for a future video. Since villages often sprung up close to these mines, a lot of these Tajchi aren't that far from like the towns and villages in Slovakia. That means they're a great place to stop and refresh yourself on hot summer days by having a swim. Typically they're stocked with fish so you can go fishing, and in the winter a lot of them are open for skating. If you'd like to see the Tajch in Nova Banja, you should bring your swimsuit. But first you'll have to come to Slovakia. It's full of interesting stuff.